Hey trappers, Dale Billingsley here, Billingsley Brand Lures. So guys, today I want to talk about, I see this question all the time and I get it asked a lot myself. How do I store my leftover baits and lures from one season to the next? And that's a pretty good question. Now I'm not here to call out brand A, B, and C. I'm not here to do that. I'm not going to do that. I don't care whose bait and lure you're using. Doesn't matter to me one way or the other. But this question needs to be asked to whoever's baits and lures you're using. So I can only answer for the baits and lures that I make. I can't answer for anybody else's stuff, and I'm not even going to try. So, let's just get that out in the open right now. For myself and for my baits and lures, it doesn't matter how you store them, guys. Honest to God, it doesn't. You can store them any way you want to. Some of the ideas that have been presented to me to store them, and some of the ways to store them. If you've got, let's say you live in town, and you don't, you're worried about the smell because some people are oversensitive to that. Maybe you want to look at putting yours off in an old cooler with a good seal up lid, so the smell doesn't get out. What'll help a lot too is to drop a few charcoal briquettes in there. Charcoal absorbs odors and eats it. Look at your main ingredient in, say, your foot powders, your odor eater insoles, those kind of things. It's charcoal because it grabs a hold of an odor and hangs onto it and doesn't let it get anywhere. So that's a pretty good idea. You can also store them off into a sealed up coffee can that's got a good sealed lid on it. You can pack that full of dirt or sand or cat litter, something of that sort. A lot of you know that when I ship lure to you, I put it in the padded flat rate envelopes, and I go ahead and I fill it on up with kitty litter so that it doesn't get flagged by the Postal Service. So that's a pretty good idea too. You could also store it off into an old, if you have an old refrigerator that you don't use out in your shed or your shop, or maybe down in your basement or something of that sort. That works pretty good. Myself personally, my leftover baits and lures get left right on the dash of the pickup all year long. Number one, that tells me when I crack the lid on it and I can still smell it and it hasn't changed. And I know even if the labels wore off and the writings wore off the lid, I know that when I crack that lid, I can still detect and still tell what bait or lure it is. Then I know for myself that I've got everything formulated in there just the way it should be. I don't care if it's 20 below zero or 125 in that cab of that pickup, it's going to smell exactly the same. Nothing's going to change. And that all comes from the fixatives that I use in my baits and lures, and I'm not going to get off into that. For you aspiring wannabe bait and lure makers, there's plenty of information out there about that sort of thing. You can look that up on, for yourself. And it's things you're going to need to learn for yourself. There's no black magic to this. It's all about personal experiences and personal preferences as to what you're looking for in a bait and lure when you start formulating it. So we're not even going to delve off into that subject. We're concentrated more about how to store baits and lures. I know one guy that he puts his inside coffee cans with a good lid on it, and then he buries it in his yard to help keep the smell down, and it keeps it out of the sunlight and this kind of thing. I know a couple of guys that their lure maker who they buy from recommended that they just put it in a freezer and freeze it from summer on in, through one season to the next. So those are some questions you need to be asking the bait and lure maker that you're buying from. He should be able to answer that. He or she should be able to answer that without any problems. And then, like I said, if you get, brand A and test it yourself, put it out in the sun, put it out somewhere, and see if it's going to hold its odor or not. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. That's yet to be seen. But, if it does, well, then you're probably on to something pretty good, and that's probably one you ought to be sticking with. If it changes odor or loses odor throughout the year, well, you might want to be looking at somebody else's stuff there too. Again, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not trying to stir any bad blood. That's the last thing I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to give you guys some ideas as to what you could do to store your baits and lures through the summertime. Because like I said, I get that question asked a lot. I see it asked quite a bit on Facebook on some of the trapping forums. Just get yourself, the best thing to do is to keep them in a cool spot, sort of somewhat cool, somewhat out of the sun. As we all know, especially anything in a glass bottle, unless it's an amber glass bottle, anything coming through that glass, the UV rays of the sun are going to have an effect on the base or the ingredients that are used in those baits and lures. I put mine off in plastic anymore because, number one, it's too hard to get glass and it's too expensive, and lure and bait is expensive enough without adding more cost to it to pass on to you guys as consumers. I mean, I try to keep the cost of everything down as much as I can, but still use quality ingredients and put out quality product. And it's a tough deal to get through, I'm not going to lie. With the cost of everything going up the way it has over the last few years, it's a tough road to hoe. But I don't like putting it in plastic myself, because plastic not only lets an odor out, but it lets some odors in too, so you've got to be kind of careful there. But again, to try to save a buck for you guys on the end of it, that's what I try to do. And again, for the availability of it too. Glass is getting harder and harder to come by all the time, it seems like. So anyway, like I said, guys, try to keep it out of the sun, and urine the same way. Now, I'm big on keeping urine in a dark spot, cool as I can possibly keep it. Doesn't hurt to freeze urine a bit. If it's good quality urine, it's not going to hurt it. Keep that stuff as fresh as you possibly can through the fall, from one season to the next. Doesn't hurt a bit to freeze urine. In fact, I recommend that you do. And again, seek out quality urine. Guys, in the grand scheme of it all, when it comes right down to the nitty-gritty of it, with the cost of truck, traps, the daily expense of running a trap line, and everything else, when it comes right down to it, quality baits and lures, quality urines are the cheapest thing between you and that animal. And that's the God's truth right there. You can't, you try to save a buck here and there when you can, and I'm all for that myself. But when it comes to baits and lures, boy, you can't hardly afford to do that, because, like I said, that's the cheapest thing there is between you and that animal in the grand scheme of it all. So, guys, I'm going to kind of end this here. I know it was kind of a short little video, but kind of rained on me again today, which I'm very thankful for. We've got some more pop-up thunderstorms coming. I really couldn't get out and do a whole lot as far as set making today, so I thought today would be a good topic. Once again, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. I appreciate everything you've done for this channel from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it so much. If you haven't yet, if you would please hit that subscribe button for me, hit that notification bell, and hit that thumbs up. If nothing else, at least hit the thumbs up for me. That means so much to me and so much to YouTube and the algorithm. It lets them know that you appreciate not only my channel, but all the other outdoor channels as well. Guys, once again, this is Dale Billingsley with another one. Signing out.